when you stand on the stage now, how do you compare that to those moments where you were anxious and wondering what people were thinking?
Ooh, I wish I could go back and talk to that Pavar and be like, girl, just do it. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I've had it since I was 11 years old, and it damaged the joints in my hands. There would be moments where I would feel super self-conscious, and I would be like, okay, what are people thinking? I'm here because I work hard, I deserve to be here, and I'm good at what I do. And if somebody wants to take away from all those things because they see a disability and not the rest of who I am, then that's their problem. God made us absolutely, positively, 100% limitless.
I'm Jessica, and I'm on a journey. Like a lot of us, I struggled with my weight, brought on by using food to fill every void, every worry, up to 270 pounds, all as my career in TV news was taking off. But when the weight led to high blood pressure, I had to make a decision to fight, to forgive, to love myself from within. We're all on a journey, and there's power when we share the lessons along the way, so we can all decide to live.
Welcome to Decide to Live. I'm your host, Jessica Larché. This is the show where we share stories that encourage us to embrace the challenges we face in our lives as a gateway to our greatness. And I have no doubt that today's guest will have you laughing at your limits as you break free and soar to your destiny. One of my best friends, comedian, actress, and incredible woman, Pavar Snipe.
Pavar Snipe is stepping into the spotlight. She's part of an elite group of SNL hopefuls and a writer and voice actress for the new ABC summer hit show When Nature Calls with Helen Mirren. Yes, a writer, even though doctors told her an arthritis diagnosis as a child would cripple her. But she refused to believe it and first made a name for herself on the famed Boodah Brothers Morning Show in the 757, and then leaps of faith leading her to the stage. And now Pavar is the one having the last laugh.
Pavar!
Jessica!
I just want to give you a big hug, but it is a COVID world, so we are doing this virtually. Oh, I love you. I miss you. I adore you.
I love you. I miss you.
You know, what's so really cool to see when you're back home in the 757 and you and I will be out and about and people will be like, that's Pavar. That's Pavar. Or someone will hear you speak and be like, oh my God, that's Pavar Snipe from the Boodah Brothers Morning Show. It is so awesome to see that you have left this imprint really on the fabric of VA. How did being on this big show, especially at the height of the Boodah Brothers Morning Show, how did it shape you as a person?
Oh my gosh. When I think about the people that I met doing that show and how people reach out to me now from that, and that was over 10 years ago, it's overwhelming. You know what I mean? It lets you know that you make an impact on people. I started writing comedy on the Boodah Brothers Morning Show because me and Mike Lord, God rest his soul, would do comedy pieces together. I would do impressions, you know what I mean? So being that I always knew that I loved Saturday Night Live and it was something that I always really was hoping to get to, I had no idea that spark would start in radio. You know what I mean? And that's where it started for me. Doing my Inside Down, which was like my gossip and entertainment segment. And putting in my little funny spin on things here and there was pretty much me beginning to write monologue jokes. Those were all the inner workings of me becoming a stand-up comedian now and working towards getting into the realm of late night television.
It's so interesting to see when we look back, the puzzle pieces, how God puts everything in place. And we don't get what's going on at the time. But you're right. You started your career as a comedian and as an actress here in VA on the Boodah Brothers Morning Show.
I absolutely did. I didn't know it at the time because I was really just having fun. I was in this amazing position where I got to get up, have fun with my friends who were like family, and entertain thousands of people every day. Like it's mind-boggling that I had the opportunity to do that for so long. Like 7 years is a long time to be in that position. And yeah, it's something. It's something.
You know, when people do mention the show, you know, there's loss that happened, you know, with people that you loved on the show. How did losing some of your, you know, your family, I don't want to say coworkers because they're your family. How did those losses really shape you and make you change the way you looked at life?
Man, it both times when we lost Mike Lord, lost him first, and we were on air, and his mother called us. Miss Juanita called me and Big B that day and told us that Mike Lord passed. And to say it hit like a ton of bricks, when that just wouldn't be an understatement. A ton of bricks, a semi truck, the world falling down in front of you. It was like losing a part of your body. And then a few years later, after I was no longer on the morning show and DJ Law passed away, it was just like not even reality. You know what I mean? Until this day, I still have dreams. I have very vivid dreams where they didn't really die. Oh, it was a mistake. Oh, no, he didn't really pass away. Oh, there you go. You're here. Thank goodness you didn't. You know what I mean? It's odd, but it's the impression that they made on my life, and it also lets me know, no, they didn't really die. They're watching.
They are. Maybe those dreams are their way of sending you a wink from heaven that they're your guardian angels now.
Absolutely.
What was that like when they come in and they say, hey, we're doing these massive layoffs and we have to let you go?
Couple of things. We were in a way prepared because the writing was on the wall. They had already done one round of layoffs a few months before. And DJ Law was honestly very concerned that they were going to get rid of the entire show because of all of the changes that the world of radio has made over the past decade. And that's going into automation and more syndicated shows. And so it's very rare that you'll see a local morning show nowadays, unless you're in one of the bigger markets like New York or LA or TC, because they're preferring to put famous people in those slots across the country. And the day that I got laid off, the operations manager of the building conspicuously didn't come to work. And therefore it fell on DJ Law. He didn't know what was going to happen. It fell on DJ Law to be the one to have to deliver this news to me that morning. And it was a tough day. And I can honestly say that it was tougher for Law than it was for me. He was very emotional. He was very upset that it even had to happen. And I think he was even more upset that he had to be the one to do it. It wasn't right. Yeah, it was tough. I was stunned, but I just walked out. I was like, okay. And I just got my stuff and I left. And I was just like, what am I going to do now? Friends wanted to protest. They were ready to pick it outside the station. I was like, no, this is what it is. You know, if you work in radio or you work in media, at some point it's going to come for you. That was the end of that journey for me. But even though it took a while for me to figure out what my thing was going to be, my overall thing, it had to happen in order for me to move forward.
It's one thing to know that now, but in the moment when things like that happen, again, it's like looking in the rearview mirror, you see now that had to happen in order for you to be where you are today. What would you tell someone who's maybe in the position now that you were when that major life-changing moment happened?
Man, and so many people are there right now, right? Today does not define tomorrow. Today does not define tomorrow. Today does not define tomorrow. You define what your tomorrow is. You may be having a heavy moment. You may be having some heavy weeks. We are all clearly having some very heavy weeks. And you're absolutely allowed to your feelings and your emotions and all those things. But just know that there is something else that is greater for you, and you just have to push on. And I know it's hard. Use the time that you can in the way that best suits you to grow, but today does not define tomorrow.
I think that's an amazing way to look at it. You know, I'm going to fast forward the story just a bit because it was in that in-between phase that you and I met. And I like to tell people that you picked me up at a Black journalist meeting and took me on a date. And that was, you nudged me and you were like, what's your number? I gave you my number, then you text me. He's like, you hungry? You want to go get something? And I'm like, and then I'm like, is she asking me on a date? Sorry, baby, my husband's here. That was one of the best first dates. And so we really did become close quickly.
Very quick, yeah.
And so I preface that to say, one of the things though we never talked about the arthritis for, I think, for even maybe the first few years of our friendship. Yeah. And all I knew is that your hands looked a little different and you didn't wear heels. That's all I knew. And I figured, I said, well, if it's important to her to share with me what's going on, she'll tell me. But you never mention it. I never asked, because obviously you fall in love with the person as your friend and you move forward. And I said, well, she ain't talking about it. It must not be a big deal, whatever. And I'll never forget, and I know you're going to remember this. We were at a party, and this very rude man made a comment that enlightened me on what it was, but he did it in such a very cruel and arrogant way. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely remember. Yeah. It was, you're different, and I want to acknowledge that you're different. Because we need to acknowledge that you're different in this room. That's what it was. And by me acknowledging that you're different, I am a great person. It was weird. It was an awkward situation. And the thing is, I have rheumatoid arthritis. I've had it since I was 11 years old. And it, damaged the joints in my hands. And I don't not talk about it on purpose. I just live. That would be like you talking about, your earlobe. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, this is who I am, and this is how I live, breathe, and operate. And so unless it's a part of the actual conversation in which I would bring it up, it's not something that I talk about, because it's not something that I think about when I walk around my day to day. And the older that I've gotten through, time, I started to realize, oh, okay, other people do see me differently. So I do need to acknowledge, in a way that's comfortable for me. But also I've come to the conclusion over the years that it's not my job to make somebody else feel comfortable.
Amen.
That's not my job.
You do talk about it more, because I think people who also live with arthritis see you living in spite of it and soaring, and especially being so in the spotlight, that if they have people who were like that in their lives who make them feel so different, they see you out here in front of the camera on these comedy stages doing all of this, and it's not even a thought, and they get to look at you and say, well, it isn't a big deal. I'm not different.
And look, that took growth. Like, it took time to get to that place. You know what I mean? I remember my early days in radio. Man, even I would say for most of my time in radio, I would be self-conscious, and people like that guy would pile on to that. And so, like, getting past that feeling and being like, you know what, this is it. So I can't change it. It's not going to disappear. So you're going to deal with it. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to live my life in the best possible way that I can. I remember having feelings of like, and a lot of people have anxiety before big performances and things like that. But specifically in radio, like going to host big concerts or like a big event. We would sometimes be in front of thousands of people, literally at Afram Fest or JAMZ Fest, or, going to our high school. There would be moments where I would feel super self-conscious. And I would be like, okay, what are people thinking? What is somebody thinking? Is somebody thinking what's wrong with her? Oh, that's, you know what I mean? I would have those thoughts, and I would have to push through those thoughts and be like, I'm here because I work hard. I deserve to be here, and I'm good at what I do. And if somebody wants to take away from all those things because they see a disability and not the rest of who I am, then that's their problem. And that takes time. And making the decision to become an actress, and move past writing and be somebody who's going to be in front of the camera and not just behind the camera, that took growth. And that took some talking to Dr. Nottingham
Therapist
our
extraordinary.
wonderful therapist, in which I need to see her. But that took time, you know what I mean? And it's not an easy thing to do. But once I made that decision, oh man, even in my stand-up now, I specifically talk about having a disability, and I specifically talk about, you know, having rheumatoid arthritis as a kid. In the 7th grade, I had to take something called specialized PE. We would do something called Sweat Until the Oldies by Richard Simmons. My boyfriend's back. Big girls, don't cry. You do it for 45 minutes, you do indeed work up a sweat. That was something that I did not do when I first started doing stand-up. And my boyfriend is the one who encouraged me to talk about that.
When you stand on the stage now and you are evoking laughter and joy in front of all these crowds, standing there exactly how you are, confident and beautiful, how do you compare that to those moments where you were anxious and wondering what people were thinking?
Ooh, I wish I could go back and talk to that Pavar and be like, girl, just do it. Girl, don't worry about it. Girl, you're good. You're going to be better than good. And anybody who's watching you and is doing this, they don't matter. They don't matter. Because for every one of those people, there's so many more that are watching and saying, you know what I mean? And that's the point. That's what matters. Is for me to get up and show people that you can just do it. You can do it.
It's not a limit.
It's not a limit.
It's not. You mentioned your boyfriend, Brent, who I say I love the way he loves you and how boldly he loves you, how outwardly he celebrates you. And when I see you all together, the tenderness, and he's very caring and protective of you. And to experience that at this point in your life in such a beautiful relationship, I know it took time to get to that. And I don't want to spend too much time here, but there is an important story that goes along with people not celebrating the totality of who you are. And there was a relationship where, someone very immaturely took a cheap shot in an effort to end the relationship. Tell our audience about that, because I think there is power in understanding the difference between love that is a facade and real love, which is what you have now.
Man, it was a blindsided type of breakup. And I just remember I specifically asked him, what was behind this? Why was it so sudden? And he just said, I can't be with you because of your disability. And it was a punch. And it was a punch because it didn't just show up like this. This didn't just appear. And it made me feel horrible because I felt like, this person was holding this back, and they were holding back a disdain. You have the right to not be with somebody because they can't go out and do the same physical activities as you do. But what you don't have the right to do is make somebody feel less than or not good enough because of how you feel about their disability. And that was the problem.
What is it like now to experience a love that celebrates the entire person of who you are?
Oh man, it's uplifting. It's encouraging. It's a gift real love is a gift from God. And that's how I feel. That's what I get. And to love somebody back in that same way, to know that it's 100% reciprocal, it's a 360 thing, is great.
So, we talk about love, and love is a leap of faith, and you are no stranger to taking multiple leaps of faith, because going back now to, the layoff from 103 JAMZ, and then you started working at News 3. We were there together. You were working in the promotions department. And so you were there for several years, kicking butt in that department, get yourself your good benefits, all those things. And then you call me in your office one day after I'd finished a report, and you say, I think I need to leave. And I was like, you mean early from work? And you said, no, I think I need to go to New York. Talk about the leap of faith from something that was very secure and very comfortable to chasing this desire you had in you to become a comedy writer.
I called you in my office to talk about that.
Yes, you did.
I just got to that point at the station where I was just like, this job is cool, but I can't do this one thing for the rest of my life. Like, this one thing is it. It didn't even make any sense anymore. And I was like, I really want to write comedy. So after I conferred with my wonderful friends, you and Bina and Ebony and just Maisha, just my great friends that I love so much, and my parents, well, really my mom first, you know, it was really a conversation with God that got me out the door. It was a conversation with God in my room. And I was just like, all right, God, how can I make this happen? What can I do? And it was just like, quit, get rid of everything and get to New York. It was just as clear as day. And that's what I did. I sold everything in my house. I rented it out. I stayed a few nights at a friend's house. I paid her rent, a few nights at my dad's house. And I slept on an air mattress, a twin air mattress in a back room for a year and a half. Moved to New York in February of 2015. August of 2015 is when I got my job at WABC News in New York. And next thing you know, it was like Brooklyn, Harlem, WABC News, UCB Comedy School, just constantly moving, constantly just going back and forth. Now, mind you, I'm somebody with arthritis. So you're going from being in Virginia and driving around to now being in New York and hopping on that subway and walking a lot. Mm-hmm. And it was not easy at first. There was some times where I was in pain and it was raining and I was by myself and I didn't have any friends yet. Walking in the city, I'm like, what am I doing? There better be something on the other side of this, because this is not that great right now. I am not liking this. I'm lost and it's raining. But it was worth it because I did classes at the UCB. If you don't know what UCB is, that's the Upright Citizens Brigade. It's a comedy school in New York City founded by Amy Poehler and Matt Besser and some other funny people. And I started taking classes there. And that's where everything just kind of started to fall into place for me for comedy.
You reluctantly took that class. You were nervous at first about being on the stage and, I don't know. But there was a fortune teller as a part of this story who said you would be in the limelight. Now,
God, oh my God, I forgot about
the fortune teller. Now, listen, people watching may be like, oh, what kind of voodoo magic? Listen, we love sweet baby Jesus in the manger. Yeah. God is our foundation. But you went on a whim, like, I'll just check out this fortune teller. And I think God can work through whoever he wants to.
Yes, he can. Okay, so, God, Jessica, I forgot about this. So I went to see a psychic, y'all. Just don't tell anybody. I went to see a psychic. And when I went to New York, my intention was to be a writer. And I'm a writer first, not to be a performer. I went to New York, and so I go to see this psychic that one of my friends said was so accurate. And I was just like, oh, let me go see. And this woman was spot on about many things. And her main thing is, I feel like you want to be behind the scenes, but you're going to be in the spotlight. She's like, I see you on stage. You're going to be the one. And I was just like, what? And then she said, I see 30 Rock. And I was like, what? Fast forward to not even a year later, I was working at 30 Rock, not you know where, but I was a news producer at NBC News in New York in 30 Rock.
In the building?
In the building. Not even in the building, on the same floor.
Wow.
On the same floor as Fallon and SNL. So I was like, okay, that's a little bit creepy.
But again, I think that God will allow messages to come to us at, whatever time. So here you are, you're in New York. You get to New York and you're working in different news departments. That's kind of like your day job to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. You're going to these comedy classes at night. You're developing all these different characters and you're really getting your footing. And then you feel the nudge from God to say, okay, it's time to jump again, this time to Los Angeles.
Well, I got into this comedy writing program with CBS. So that's called the CBS Diversity Comedy Showcase. So I got into that. It's like almost like a 6-month program, about 5-6 month program I got into to write sketches for this live comedy show. And so, yeah, I left in October of 2017. Yeah, 2017. And it was just supposed to be like, a little temporary thing. So I went out there, did this very challenging program, met some wonderful people and made some lifelong friends. And because I was in the Writers Guild, because of my news work in New York, I was able to join the Writers Guild in Los Angeles, which put me in the room with Lena Waithe and all these amazing writers, and started to form relationships and friendships with people. And then I was getting recommendations for jobs, and I got a job writing on a video game. And then I was like, I think I'm supposed to live in LA. I scraped by for a few months, and then next thing you know, I got hired at NBC Los Angeles.
Wow. So again, at NBC LA, news writing for promotions, that's the day job. Mm-hmm. And then at night, at this point, you're doing comedy routines on stage at comedy clubs. Girl, your stuff is so funny. And it's funny because it's real. Even your characters, there's Mistress Zelda, who is my favorite.
I tell the futures of souls for the universe.
There was the police officer.
I have a wonderful modest lifestyle with my husband Don and our pet Lima, Mr. Lou Vega.
The sex robot lady.
Morning, sex robots.
Good morning, sex robots. I'm weird.
Make money moves. Married a prince now. I'm moving in with you. Royal palace life. People can't smell your food.
I have a very bizarre sense of humor. I like weird, zany, dark things that may not, logical person might not even think of. I don't know where it comes from. I've watched sketch comedy. Look, Carol Burnett, Saturday Night Live, even Key and Peele more recently are the shows that I just gravitated towards. And I was one of those kids who wanted to be on TV. Like, I wanted to be on Charles in Charge, or I wanted to be Tootie's little sister. I just wanted to be on TV so bad. So all of these things that I'm doing now are just little Pavar finally getting to come out and really perform like I wanted to. When I'm on stage, I just feel alive. Something else comes over me and I'm just like, in that moment, I'm that character. Just like Beyonce with Sasha Fierce. Like, once I put on that bee costume, I'm the bee. I'm now a bee. I'm a British bee. I'm a British bee named Betty Bumble.
You look at your life, and I like to say you've lived 9 lives. I mean,
girl, I feel like I've lived 30 lives.
Right. With everything you've done.
I'm 170 years old.
You said you're 107. No one would know it. No one would know it. But I wouldn't say you've never been afraid to leap. You have been afraid to leap, but you still did it because you did it anyway. What do you tell the person who is, maybe they're in a place of comfort, but they feel the need to grow that spark inside of them, but they are afraid to take the leap? What would you tell them as a professional leaper who has really benefited so much?
When I was afraid to take that comedy class in LA, and I told you I was afraid, and I was like, that means I'm supposed to do it. That's what I said. I was like, I'm afraid to take this class, so I know that means I'm supposed to do it. And that one move changed the trajectory of my entire life. Because I took that class, I found out about that CBS program. Because I found out about that CBS program, I went to Los Angeles. Because I went to Los Angeles, I met my boyfriend and got my dog and met, had the love of my life. I met some fantastic people. I'm creating more comedy. I started doing stand-up. All these things came as a result of that one step that I was afraid to take. That one thing turned into this, and this. So sometimes, even if it's a small, because somebody might think that taking a class is a small thing, right? Like, that's one small thing. So sometimes it can just be that one small thing Take that class, make that call, jump in on that seminar. You know, like that one tiny thing that you're afraid to do can change your life.
I'm so grateful that so many more people will really, really hear your story and how you really have laughed at the limits others place on you. Because it's not any limits you place on yourself, it's what other people think you can and can't do. And you have soared. What do you say to anybody who's facing a limit right now? It could, it could be a physical disability or a mental illness or, maybe a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one. What do you say to the person who feels like they are limited in their life?
There's nothing that God cannot do. God did not put limits on you. We put the limits on ourselves. We accept the limits that other people put on us. We have to remember that God made us absolutely positively 100% limitless. And you just have to make the decision to try. If you make the decision to try, if you remove the I can't, if you remove the they won't let me, and you just start to take that one small step, there's always just one small step to whatever it is you want to do. Just take it. Just take it. And then ignore when somebody tells you that you care, or you won't, or you shouldn't. Don't try. Don't listen to that. When I was 16 years old, I told you about this before, Jess. I used to go to CHKD a lot for my rheumatoid arthritis. And I had this, I guess she was a social worker. She was some lady. And we were talking about my future. I can't even remember the full context of the conversation, but I just know that she looked at me and said, "Oh, you'll never drive." And she said it so casually, so nonchalant, just with that one statement, she decided I wasn't going to drive for the rest of my life, which meant I wasn't. When you tell somebody they're not going to drive, you're saying you're not going to be independent enough. You're not going to be able to do these things for yourself. And all I thought to myself was, that's not true. Yes, well, I didn't even consider what she said to be true. I didn't even consider it. It was like, okay, yeah, that's not true. That's the mindset that I have. That's the mindset that I've always had. And like I said, yeah, I have moments of anxiety and doubt, but I've pushed through those moments because of God and because of having faith that God made me this way for a reason. There's a reason for this. And if you can accept that there's a reason for it, whether it's to be an example of God's mercy and his glory and his power, or if it's to be an example of showing people what you can do when they say that you can't, I don't know. But I know that God made us limitless.
Oh, Lord, I need some tissue around here. Pavar, the great part about your story is that it is only just beginning.
Yeah.
Only just beginning. We have a picture of you walking into 30 Rock. I believe that will be manifested very soon because you are phenomenal, you are limitless, and you are showing all of us how to be limitless too. Pavar, I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you so much for being a guest on Decide to Live.
Oh man, this was great. And you didn't make me cry. I almost. But I can't do a regular cry. So I was like, I'm not going to cry.
You can't cry.
I can't.
I'm crying because your cry is, you have a very interesting cry face.
It's a lot. My cry face is a lot. It's a loud wail that lasts for about 7 seconds and then it's done. It's very weird. Nobody wants to see it. It's a bizarre cry. And so I gotta hold it back.
I spared our audience the bizarre cry, but when you win your first Emmy and your Oscar, they're gonna see it.
They're gonna see it. They're gonna be like, "Oh, is she okay? Is she dying? What happened? Oh no, she's fine.
She's fine. Oh no, she's back.
She's fine. She's back.
She's back. She's good. I love you, Pavar.
Love you.
Mwah.
Decide to live.
You are limitless. I hope Pavar's story encourages you to know that you were built to break barriers. There are no mistakes, and how you were created. It's all to serve your greater purpose. You have what it takes to live a limitless life. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Decide to Live. I'm Jessica Larché. Remember, a brighter day is just one good decision away, and I hope you decide to live.
I just keep on pushing, 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 pushing. Keep pushing, keep pushing.